This coming week is the 8th anniversary of Stratum Aesthetics, and as is tradition, I'm going to share my 8 lessons learned from my 8th year in business. I have done this, I want to say 4 years, maybe 5 years. Every single year. And it's for you, even if you're not a business owner. These are just like life lessons that I've learned this year that I think are applicable to anyone. So I hope you enjoy. You are listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern vitality. If you are seeking to reconnect with your innate vibrancy, you're in the right place. I'm Emily Davis, a seasoned holistic esthetician and herbalist. Join me as we unlock the secrets of ancient skincare practices, explore the beauty of seasonal and nature-based living, herbalism, and true holistic well-being for you and the broader ecosystem. This podcast is brought to you by Stratum Aesthetics. Head to stratumaesthetics.com to find curated skincare, body care, and other wellness products hand-selected by me. Now enjoy the show. Welcome back. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been 8 years. It simultaneously feels like no time has gone by, but also like my life before Stratum was a lifetime ago. I just love sharing these episodes. I think the first one I ever did was before I had the podcast. I shared in a Substack essay, but I just love sharing them because I always get great feedback, which just makes me so happy to hear that others are getting value from the lessons that I'm learning. I love my work so much, and I feel like as time has gone by, I've just fallen deeper and deeper in love with it. But I do want to be honest with you. This year has been one of my hardest years. I questioned if I should just burn it down and go get a job several times. You will get some of the insight as to why as I share these lessons. But I feel like I'm on the other side of that, or at least today I'm on the other side of that. But I guess that leads us into the first lesson, which I named based on the title of a book that I really love. The book is called The Obstacle is the Way, and that's lesson number 1. The obstacle is the way. The opportunity is in the challenge. This is a book, it's an older book by Ryan Holiday. And in the book, he quotes Andy Grove, who's a former CEO of Intel. And I love this. I wrote it down. It says, "Bad companies are destroyed by crisis. Good companies survive them, and great companies are improved by them." And I think this is just so true, and it speaks to the fact that challenges are an opportunity to get creative and to step up. And I feel like with that mindset, no matter what happens to you in work, in life, you're going to be okay if you hold on to this mindset. I highly recommend picking this book up. There are some parts that I feel like haven't aged wonderfully, but overall, it's just like I gleaned so much wisdom from this book. And I feel like I've been learning this lesson over and over again my whole life, but this year it finally clicked and was just very cemented in with different financial challenges, which has forced me to step up my game in places where I wasn't. Or December was not a good month for the business. It was like cancellation after cancellation. There was one night I was laying on the floor in like full panic mode because my mind just loves to go to the worst case scenario. And I was like, okay, it's been a good run. Obviously, everyone hates me and I'm losing all my clients and the business is failing. And I was like telling Joel that I was pretty sure I was going to have to get a job. And he was like, okay, I think there's a few steps between right now and your entire business failing. So let's just take a step back. But it's like when you're in panic mode, it's hard to do that. And then the next morning I woke up and I was like, no, if this is a decline, I'm going to get creative. And this spring I've been facing some challenges and same thing. I just feel not afraid. I feel like I can welcome it because it does give me a chance to be creative, to see what's in store next. And I kind of like it. I'm kind of welcoming it. And I love in the book, The Obstacle is the Way. He is like, you're never going to not have obstacles. You're not like working towards this dream future where everything is easeful. Like life is going to keep handing them to you. And as you up level, you're going to have more complicated obstacles and you have to learn how to just welcome them. And I feel like this year, I really have been able to welcome the challenges. So that's lesson number 1 out of 8. Lesson 2 is that not all distractions look like distractions. Some appear like growth. So this is a tricky one because it's very easy for consumption to be disguised as progress. So in the past, I have found myself reading every business book recommended by a person who I was taking courses from, or I've, also just signing up for all the courses from business coaches and gurus, or just consuming content from YouTube or Instagram and doing all of this thinking that I'm moving forward. But what was really happening was a lot of it was just creating this really satisfying feeling noise. And it was like this weird loop where I was feeling very productive, but nothing was actually compounding. And I wasn't actually moving forward towards my own goals. And so I feel like there was just like all this noise and I was allowing that to override my own intuition. And this wasn't just business coaches, although I realized I've needed to stay away from following and listening to podcasts from a lot of these people, not because they're bad. It's just that it's like, oh, go do this shiny thing. Oh, well, now you need to go do this shiny thing. And it was just like me chasing every piece of advice that I was hearing because it sounded really good. And it was, like I said, just creating this noise. And I do think that getting off of social media, just for the fact that I'm not consuming as much, has helped me to be more discerning about who I'm listening to. That industry is very noisy. But it's not just business coaches. I was getting distracted by colleagues who were doing their own thing, and I would think I needed to do that thing too. And this created this constant feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm behind. I should be taking that course or doing that thing. When in reality, of course, my business, every business has its own path. And it took logging off of Instagram for several months for me to be able to even see this and to just get tapped back into what I'm doing, my goals, and not just constantly like getting distracted has felt like such a huge weight off of my shoulders. I feel like I was spinning my wheels for years. And then finally, once I cut out all of these distractions that were putting pressure on me, I was actually able to get some traction. And I feel like this lesson is so insidious because it feels like you're doing the things that a business owner, quote unquote, should do. Like you're investing in yourself, you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people, you're learning, and these are all good things, but you have to be able to notice the friction that it's causing. And it took me a really long time to be able to get centered enough back into myself to feel that. And I would say this applies to so many more aspects of life than just business ownership. It's like how not all self-improvement is actually moving you forward. I think about the wellness industry. There's like a wellness industry overload, which I have fallen into, thinking like, I need more supplements, I need more protocols, a new routine is just the thing that's going to fix everything. And so maybe wellness influencers are like the metaphorical business coaches in this analogy. But it's just been so freeing to see the distraction for what it is, to not be mad about it, and to be able to just center back into myself. Okay, so the next lesson is that my work right now is to design my business to protect and generate my energy. I'm learning that my current business model of trading my time for money is not super sustainable. And this is one reason that I'm pivoting a little bit to make my treatment room where I see clients for facials not my full-time thing. And this year, part of my like, oh my God, should I just burn it all down, was me considering like, do I need to just leave the treatment room completely? I've been doing this for so long and it can be a little bit draining. And I was considering just packing it all up. I always take 2 weeks off at Christmas where I don't see clients at all. I usually am still doing other work, but I don't see clients. And I realized after reflecting over those 2 weeks that like the treatment room giving facials is life-giving to me, but the way that I'm doing it right now needs to change because my energy, this may be also a different alternative title for the lesson, your energy is your most valuable and limited resource. So there's a lot of emotional labor that goes along with the work that I do. There's holding space, being on all day long. You're regulating the room, you're answering questions, you're reading people and attuning to them. You just basically are a soft little skin fairy who creates this energetic environment that feels safe. And it's not sustainable to be doing full-time 40 hours a week. Maybe if you're just slapping a mask on people and calling that a facial, but that's not what I do. It's a very specific type of treatment. And I realize that I have to protect my energy so much when I'm not at work. I need to have white space. I need to have time when I don't have audio or input coming into my ears. I need to also have firm boundaries in the treatment room around the conversations that take place. Even taking clients without enough of a break in between, or getting to work and needing to rush to get ready for my first client. This is all draining my energy. And so creating space in my life, creating like ether in my life has become a big thing. I really have edited my work to be only working with clients who fill my cup. I've been letting go of working with people who drain me. And these are all ways that I've learned that I need to protect my energy. And this has been like a big theme this whole year. And at first, I kind of thought that I was being like selfish or self-indulgent. But I've realized if I don't do these things, I will not be able to do the work at all. And so it's protecting the integrity of the whole thing for the people who I do genuinely love showing up for. I love my work. It is truly so life-giving when I am creating these boundaries so that I'm not, creating all of these energetic leaks. I've also realized that trading time for money, especially when it's your body that is the income, is quite unsustainable as well. I've been doing this for 19 years, but it's been almost 2 decades, and I'm really starting to feel it. It's becoming imperative that I work out regularly and do yoga regularly, or my body just feels awful. And after a full day's work of, being on my feet, massaging people, I feel it. And this has been a big part of why I started adopting an Ayurvedic lifestyle and started Ayurveda school this year. It's just felt like the best way to fill my cup so that I have enough energy to pour into other people. And filling my own cup first and fiercely protecting my own energy has made me feel like I have enough to do all of the other things, like this podcast, and grow the business in the other places that will make it more financially sustainable over time. So this one is a little bit more of a vulnerable share, but I want to share it because I know that I have a lot of other estheticians who listen, and I hope you hear this. And yeah. Okay. Number 4, a feminine, soulful business needs masculine structure, or it's just vibes. Another year-long theme that I've been learning. Okay. So what does this even mean? What I mean by feminine and masculine in business, I think of the feminine energy in business as like the creativity and intuitive guidance and connection with people, having a business that reflects worldview and values, working in a cyclical way to honor your body, the way your body responds to seasons of nature, because we're biologically not going to have the same energy 7 days a week, 12 months a year as women. And so these are all good things, like all of these ideas of like what femininity is in business. And I'm highly attracted to them. And I feel like leading with them is a reaction to old school, like hyper masculine business, which is like grind harder, ignore your body's signals, growth at all cost. Okay, so there's that. And what does it look like to have a feminine business without balancing the masculine? So there's this entrepreneurship subculture of what I kind of think of as like hyper feminized business. And that takes these beautiful ideas, like that importance of alignment and intuition and values-based business, and it kind of swings the pendulum. Of course, when a pendulum swings, it has the tendency to overcorrect and potentially lose context. So for me, when I leaned into this hyper feminized way of doing things, it's like alignment became the most important metric, and like mood starts to run the show. And for me, work was happening like only when the vibe is right. And I was listening to business coaches from this way of doing things. And, like even just talking about how they don't believe in marketing to a problem because it attracts people who are in victim consciousness. And this way of thinking, I have been very attracted to. It's kind of seductive because it does sound so beautiful and poetic. But the lesson that I've learned this year about this type of business is it's just kind of creating inertia. For example, if you refuse to market to a problem, you're now becoming invisible to the person who actually needs your help because you're just kind of being vague and poetic. And this is the opposite of serving and helping. I read another book. I've always got a book recommendation on every topic. But I read a book that I really like called This is Marketing by Seth Godin. And he wrote, if you hesitate to market your offering properly, it's not that you're being shy. It's not that you're being circumspect. It's that you're stealing, because there's someone who needs to learn from you, engage with you, or buy from you. Someone will benefit from you if you get out of your way and market it. It's so true. It's like morally, you have an obligation to share your gifts with the world. I find it also very interesting because Seth Godin is not like a bro marketer at all. He's so like human centered. He's so ethical. And I highly suggest watching an interview with him. Like just go type his name into YouTube or sign up for his daily newsletter. He does speak in parables quite often. And sometimes I'm like, what are you talking about? But it forces me to really flesh out what the metaphor is. And he forces deeper thinking. But back to the lesson. I feel like when you're rejecting structure and accountability, or when I was rejecting structure and accountability and calling it feminine wisdom, it's kind of flattening the actual feminine wisdom into an excuse for avoidance. And that's the discomfort that I felt when trying to navigate and balance the two. It's just calling me into a little bit of deeper discernment, because I've also taken, advice from business coaches who are the opposite. So the lesson I'm learning is just like finding the discernment between the feminine and the masculine in your business. We do need structure. Think about like a river. A river is like the feminine. It's the watery, flowy expression. And then the river bank is the masculine. It's creating the structure. And we need both of those in order for flow to take place. Without the masculine, feminine can just become total chaos. So we need them both, and we should honor them both. Okay. Lesson number 5 is that more effort does not equal more revenue. So this may sound like a giant contradiction from the last lesson. Like, wait a second, you just said we need structure and effort and these masculine things, but now you're saying effort isn't the answer to more revenue. What I'm learning and what I'm leaning into here is that intentionality is the variable. And this has meant changing the filter that I use when I decide how time or money or energy is spent on something. So before, when I was in that hyper feminized space, the filter was often like, what's the vibe? What's my mood? And I've changed over this year the filter to, does this move me towards revenue, relationships, or results? So I ask myself that when I'm deciding to spend money on something. It's not like, oh, is this cute? Is this like feeling fun? It's, does this move me toward revenue, relationships, or results? And I'm asking myself this on things I'm spending time on, all the things. So revenue, of course, is this a direct line to money in? The next one, relationships. Does this drive me toward relationships? This part is remembering the long game and showing up. So building a presence that means when somebody finally needs me, I'm the person they think of. That's like this podcast is me building relationship and community. That's what my newsletter does. And then finally, the results part. So does this move me toward results? Is like, what is creating better results in the business? Is it something that makes me more resourced? So this can look like education, skill development, testing products. So when I'm deciding like, okay, I want to purchase this course, and I'm asking, does this move me toward revenue, relationships, or results? I need to get real serious and decide, is buying this course, because if you've been around for very long, you may know I'm a bit of a course addict, or I have been in the past. I need to get real serious about, is this going to create better results in my business? Like, actually, is it? And that has been helping me put that filter on. And on top of all of this, having weekly CEO dates with myself where I look at what's moving, what's not moving, the status of things, and reviewing what my goals actually are so I can continue to anchor back into my intention. All right, so that was lesson number 5. Lesson number 6 is try an experiment and don't be afraid to abandon it if it's not right. And when I say this, I mean quitting from clarity, not just trying something for a second and then quitting because you don't want to commit, like maybe from a place of inertia. What I am saying is don't be afraid to try something intentionally. Give it time to really feel it out and then evaluate. So what I'm thinking about here, I started doing podcast video a couple of months ago. I gave it 2 months. I showed up. I did the thing. I tried really hard to make it work and I hated it. Like full body, nervous system, every cell in my body was like, no, this is not the vibe. And it wasn't just that I didn't enjoy it. It was that it was making me want to actually quit the podcast entirely, which really sucks because I've shown up for, almost 100 episodes now. And I do truly love creating this podcast, but a video format was just very draining and it felt misaligned for where I am right now. Permission to change my mind. I may feel better about video podcasting in the future and switch back, but it wasn't generating more revenue. It wasn't driving deeper relationship. It was just more of my energy going into something that was making me love doing this whole thing less. So I have this thing that I do. I have a notebook that's just for me, talking to my business like she's a person. And I'll just open it up and start out like I'm writing somebody a letter. And in this letter, I'll just be like, okay, this is a problem I feel like I'm having right now. What do you think? And I wait for the answer, and whatever pops into my mind is I think what her answer is, and then I write it down and we kind of go back and forth. And I might argue back and forth in this letter, like, well, but what about this? Or did you think about it from this perspective? And ultimately, the answer that I will come to will feel very clear. And the key part is that it feels very neutral. Like, of course, obviously, that's the answer. And that may not happen right away. It may take several days of writing letters to my business and going back and forth. And then what I do afterward is I will often take a thinking walk, which is something that I learned from Newport, another author who I very much enjoy. He has a great podcast. And so a thinking walk is I'll just take a walk without my phone, and I have one specific thing that I plan to think about and mull over on the walk. And I do this with whatever the thing is. And I know this whole thing sounds kind of weird, but it's a cognitive tool that I've found to work very well. And this was how I came to the decision about going back to just audio for the podcast. And I feel super clean about this. It didn't make me feel like I'm a quitter. I didn't have guilt. It was just a very clear answer of yes, this is the correct thing to do. I have done this about social media. Like, should I go back to social media? And every time it just feels like, no, the answer is no. And so I don't know, maybe that's another little secret bonus lesson in here is, talk to your business like they're your imaginary friend, but it really works for me. Number 7 is creating white space is a non-negotiable. So once a month, I have a scheduled off-grid day. I call it Moonday, not to be confused with my weekly newsletter, which is called Moonday Notes. But it's called Moonday because I always try to do this a day near the new moon, which is traditionally like a time when you go inward. And what I do during New Moon Day is I let my family know, hey, I'm going to be off grid tomorrow, or anybody who needs to get a hold of me, I'm going to be off grid tomorrow. I'll get back to you on Tuesday or whatever day I'm back in society. And what I do is I am not allowed to do chores. I'm not allowed to do work. I'm not allowed to have any tech or screens around. It's really just a day to enjoy myself, to work on, art and crafts, take walks, do yoga. I'm pretty much at home the whole day, aside from taking, long wandering walks with my dog. And it's just a really nice time to decompress. I feel like I'm always learning the lesson that I have to schedule intentional white space because it's what reinvigorates my creativity and my clarity. It's kind of like a factory reset for my system. And I love it because it's a true break from being needed or from being productive. And it's also a break from consuming. I think it's easy for us to think like, oh, laying on the couch watching TV is rest, but it's not rest at all. Your brain is constantly processing things. It's completely different than, if you pull out your watercolors and spend time painting for 3 hours, So I know that may sound indulgent to some people. I always have resistance every single time. I've been doing this for years and I have resistance to it every single morning that I started. I'm like, oh, I should be doing stuff. Like I could just skip it this month and it wouldn't really matter. But I always force myself through that resistance. And every time I am so grateful because I come back so much better the next day. And this is different than a weekend. Like how often on a weekend are you just not doing anything, not being needed by somebody? I think it is so important to just once a month, even if you do this for a half day, figure out a way that you can schedule it into your life and just have a day where you're not being pulled by everybody and needed by everybody or consuming or producing. Okay, final lesson number 8. When I stop looking outward, I am more clear in my own authority. So this is something I learned this year after leaving social media, and I have realized that part of the reason I left was because I was trying to scale an online business, and I ironically felt social media making me smaller. And when I stopped logging on, looking at people who I had decided knew more than me, were further along than me, were somehow, more than me, I was able to notice that I have been drowning out my own authority. I've been doing this work for 19 years. I am truly an expert in my field, and not to toot my own horn, but I am. And somehow I was letting 15 minutes of scrolling undermine what 2 decades of real embodied practice has built. And now that I'm not drowning that out, I show up to this podcast differently. I write my newsletter differently. I show up differently with my clients. And so I do feel, I have spoken before about self-authorship. I feel so much more grounded in that. I feel like I'm not looking around at what everybody else is doing, and I feel much stronger in my own authority. So yeah, I'll revisit the 8 lessons in case you forgot. The first one is the obstacle is the way. The obstacle has been put in your path because it is your path. Number 2 is not all distractions look like distractions. Some appear as growth. So sometimes those business books, those courses, they're actually a distraction from the true thing you need to be doing. The next one, number 3, My business must be designed to protect and generate my energy. Number 4, a feminine, soulful business needs that masculine structure, or it's just vibes. Without the masculine, feminine can just be kind of chaotic. We need that masculine structure. Number 5, more effort does not equal more revenue. More intentionality equals more revenue. Number 6, try an experiment and don't be afraid to abandon it if it's not right. But you do need to go in and make sure that it's that neutral, clear, yes, this is the obvious answer, and then feel free to abandon it. You don't have to do something just because you have to finish it. Number 7, creating white space is non-negotiable. This needs to be scheduled into your life. And then finally, number 8, when you stop looking outward, you can finally become more clear in your own authority. I hope that this has been inspiring for you. Maybe it's been provocative. Maybe you don't agree with something that I learned this year, which is awesome as well, because that's a lesson for you right there too. I will be back soon. I can't wait. And until then, be well. You've been listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality. If you like what you heard today, consider giving me a 5-star rating. It helps other people just like you to find the show. You can shop products and find all of my offerings on my website, stratumaesthetics.com, and follow me on my social channels at Stratum Aesthetics.